Good evening and welcome to Roseville's 2018 State of the City Address. I'm your mayor, Susan Rohan. I share the privilege of serving this city with a group of highly dedicated council members. I'd like to acknowledge Vice Mayor Bonnie Gore and council members Tim Herman, John Allard, and Scott Alvord. To my fellow elected officials, thank you for your commitment to our city and our region. Only by working together can we realize our collective success. And welcome to our Roseville residents and to our leaders from local government, business, education, and our community's nonprofits. It's fitting to open this year's State of the City Address by sharing with you the ways in which Roseville continues to grab the national spotlight when it comes to quality of life. We've been recognized with rankings on many lists we're proud of over the years, including Safest Cities, Best Place to Raise a Family in California, Top 3 places nationally for millennials to buy homes, one of the lowest cost places in California to do business, and one of the most playful cities in the country. Adding to that, last month we were ranked one of the best cities for first-time homebuyers. Roseville also rose to the top when other key data sets were analyzed. We've been recognized as the 24th best city to retire in America, and we're the 37th healthiest city in America. Among cities with the best public schools in America, Roseville ranks 45th. And in California, Placer County ranked 2nd for English language arts and 3rd in math. We applaud our city's 5 school districts and value our strong partnership with them. Partnerships help us in many ways thrive. On a regional level, our city has greater success when we act in our collective best interests rather than going it alone. Economic development is one example. Companies we attract to the region will locate in one area and hire people who live, shop, and play throughout the region. That is why Roseville supports the economic development research and strategy being developed by 3 heavy hitters in the capital region: Greater Sacramento Economic Council, Valley Vision, and the Sacramento Area Council of Governments. Their work is providing an external, impartial assessment of how our region is competing in the global economy. It also looks at what our shared priorities should be in order to provide access to growth and opportunity for all communities in our region over the long term. Partnerships with business, educational, and nonprofit groups are integral to Roseville's success as a community. We work closely with the Roseville Area Chamber of Commerce, the Sac Metro Chamber, Invest Health, and the Roseville Coalition of Neighborhoods Associations. And we work with nonprofits to enhance the lives of our residents. Collaboration has become a central theme to our future progress. We also make it a point to meet regularly with our neighboring cities to coordinate on issues such as economic development, transportation, water reliability, and affordable housing. These are also some of the issues on the table in our meetings with Placer County as well, to ensure that new development planned by the county on our city borders will be mitigated. This is because growth in unincorporated Placer County has the potential to impact our city services, including police, fire, roadways, parks, and libraries. Our goal is to ensure that the impacts of unincorporated development on Roseville's services will be thoroughly addressed. This goal is consistent with our philosophy that development must pay its own way. To that end, it's been another strong year for our economy here in Roseville. People want to live here and do business, and businesses want to locate and expand. Roseville remains one of the most desirable cities in the region to live, with permits for single-family homes holding steady at about 1,000 per year for the past 4 years. We estimate that business will generate about $100 million in commercial investment this year, from new construction to tenant improvements. This past year, work has started on many new, large, long-term commercial projects. These include a 5-story corporate headquarters for Adventist Health, a new medical office building, and new parking garage for Kaiser Permanente's Riverside campus. significant expansion at Sutter Roseville Medical Center, a medical supply distribution facility for McKesson's new Roseville location, 232 apartments under construction in Campus Oaks, 2 new hotels under construction next to Topgolf, an athletic facility operated by Villa Sport, and the start of grading at the Sierra Vista Specific Plan site. Here in our downtown, the city has opened a new parking garage and a new fire station this year. We also started work on the downtown bridges and the trail project, and this was all done without using general fund dollars. You'll also see that a 58-unit mixed-use project by Mercy Housing is underway on Vernon Street. We're proud to see the opening of a new animal care facility through our public-private partnership with the Placer SPCA. The revitalized Placer County Fairgrounds opened too, with upgraded facilities and landscaping through the joint efforts of Placer Valley Tourism, Placer County, and the City of Roseville. Space is at a premium across all sectors of Roseville's commercial properties. The office sector is at 95% occupancy. Industrial space is 97% filled and remains a premium in the city. Retail space showed a strong 95% occupancy, confirming Roseville as the region's retail powerhouse. We have a well-educated workforce which attracts employers, and Roseville's job growth remains strong with an unemployment rate at 3.5%. Our quality of life is a key factor that helps us maintain this competitive position in the marketplace. The state of our city is strong today, but we are well aware that we cannot rest on our laurels. With the tremendous growth that's occurred over the last 20 years, we have thousands of new residents who don't know a Roseville without a Galleria Mall, without the Auto Mall, without the fountains or Topgolf. Many people don't remember a time before our well-connected trail systems, parks, indoor pool, Riley Library, Mighty Museum, parking garages, or the Vernon Street Town Square existed. It's important to note how recently all this took place because these amenities didn't happen by accident, nor did they happen overnight. Our city councils and staff have remained laser-focused through decades of careful planning that gained the respect and attention of a very savvy business community. Our all-important community engagement ensures that Roseville remains on track with providing the amenities that young professionals, families, and seniors want. It's resulted in a city with a retail and business climate that ensures a diversified tax base. It's diversified to the extent that 60% of the sales tax revenues come from visitors and businesses. This means our residents don't shoulder the full cost of the quality of life municipal services they enjoy. But we're at a critical juncture in Roseville's future. The factors outside our control are driving down our revenues and increasing our expenses. We must recognize the significance of the responsibility we have as residents today to decide what kind of Roseville we want to live in for the next several decades. Our new city manager, DOMINICK, has a pivotal role to play in this future. After serving as acting city manager since April, the City Council hired Dom as city manager on August 15th. Dom impressed the council with his leadership, vision, energy, and commitment to our community for the long term. Dom moved to Roseville in 2011 to be our Parks, Recreation, and Libraries Director after 10 years in various management positions at the City of Henderson, Nevada. 3 years ago, he became the Assistant City Manager here in Roseville, overseeing police, fire, public works, parks, recreation, and libraries, and central services. Dom lives here in Roseville with his wife and 4 children. We're so pleased to have Dom running the day-to-day operations of our city, and I'd like to invite him to the podium now.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here serving the city that I'm raising my children in and that my wife and I are raising our children in. And I have to tell you that this is truly a city that we love. When you come to Roseville, it really doesn't take long to realize that it's a special place. Roseville was founded on a vision, with a spirit of self-determination and desire for local control to ensure the high quality of life we enjoy. As the mayor described, the city and community have worked hard over the last several decades to implement a vision that we all enjoy today as the reality. The city has faced challenges head-on, taking action to address problems without delay. This catches people by surprise when they hear that we're tackling budget issues. I'm asked, how can Roseville have budget problems? It's such a great community. It doesn't look like it has any money issues at all. And that's exactly my point. We take action before things deteriorate. We do what we can behind the scenes to make sure before changes are too noticeable. In fact, we've been doing this for the last 10 years, making cuts. Because as a city, the only side that we have control of the ledger is our expenses. Since the Great Recession, we've been working hard to close the budget gaps. Our gaps as our expenses have increased. Like all California cities, we are facing shifting consumer habits. From the growth in online shopping to the shift from buying more services than goods. These trends mean less sales tax dollars and are slowing our revenue growth. We've been correcting a lot of misperceptions about tax revenues that are important to understand. Roseville has the lowest sales tax allowed by the state. Many people think that all 7.25 cents in sales tax on each dollar goes to the city. If that were the case, we wouldn't have any budget issues at all. The fact is the city receives just 1 penny of those of $1 in sales taxes. The rest goes to the state. It's similar for property tax. Consider that a typical Roseville home pays about 1% in property tax, or about $4,100. If you think this sounds low, keep in mind that Proposition 13 caps assessed home values. The city's general fund receives about $615 of that. The rest goes to the state, the county, schools, special assessment districts. Turning to the expense side, our biggest expense is labor, since we are a service organization. We've successfully worked with our labor groups to reduce salaries, reduce the gross of salaries, and reduce benefits to new hires. The number of city employees has declined, even as the city has grown. We've trimmed costs, and we've conducted independent audits to ensure we're working at a maximum efficiency. We've made cuts, we've tightened our belts. We've been open about the fact that pension costs are part of our rising expenses, and we've shared the steps we've taken to contain them. With pension reform and having our employees pay 100% of their share of pension costs, there is relief in sight, but not for a while. In fact, it's the only one of our expenses that will decrease in the long term. The challenges we face are much more than pensions. They have to do with increased costs from federal and state mandates, increased costs from materials, supplies, and labor, and the need to repair aging infrastructure. In general, our fiscal challenges are due to the cost of business increasing and the city revenues are flattening. It's not a sustainable model. We've been successful closing the gap these past 10 years in ways that haven't been too noticeable to the public. But we're at a point now where budget cuts will become increasingly noticeable in our community. The standards and services the community has come to expect are starting to decrease and decline. We've spent the past year reaching out to our community with Engage Roseville in person and online. We've gathered thousands of your ideas and opinions for ways to close the budget gap. You've told us what services are important to you, and our budget reflects that. We've done a lot of hard work. The options are limited, and the choices are starting to get tougher. Through the Engage Roseville effort, you told us you'd prefer to increase revenue over cutting services in order to protect public safety, roads, parks, recreation, and libraries. This is why the City Council put a sales tax measure on the November ballot for a half-cent sales tax, so voters can decide the level of funding and services Roseville will have going into the future. Follows when we kick off the budget planning process for the next fiscal year. We start by projecting our revenues from sales and property taxes, then work on matching our expenses so we live within our means. This year, we're starting with a big unknown, since our revenue projections depend on the outcome of the November election. When our City Council held its annual Public Goals Workshop last month, it had to consider 2 budget scenarios. One, if Measure B doesn't pass, in that case, the city estimates there will be a $1 to $3 million operational shortfall in the fiscal year of 2019 and 20. And these are things we use to pay for police, fire, parks, recreation, libraries, and public works. That is in addition to an ongoing $10 to $14 million annual shortfall funding long-term obligations such as some of our deferred maintenance, infrastructure, facilities, technology, as well as our pension obligations. The other scenario is if Measure B passes. In that case, projections call for $16 to $19 million sales tax increase annually. While this doesn't solve our budget problems, it would protect essential services and stabilize our general fund and allow for growth in priority areas. At the workshop, the council expressed its funding preferences. This was based on a list of services, fiscal options generated through Engage Roseville input and council goals. A report that the workshop will be presented at tonight's council meeting, where public comment is always welcome. There are other unknown factors to consider for Roseville's budget outlook. On the legislative front, we're keeping an eye on the statewide tax overhaul that's being discussed. It will change the way the state collects and distributes sales tax. It could be detrimental to our revenues. We're also keeping an eye on whether the gas tax remains in place. It's a $30 million question for our road maintenance budget over this next decade. But no matter the outcome of any of these decisions, several principles will guide what we do as a city and how we do it. One is we will become more data-driven. We will make sure that the decisions we're making today serve the long-term best interests of the entire city. Every day we're asked to consider different approaches, scenarios, and agreements. In evaluating these, we have to be committed to open and frank discussions. We have to weigh the short-term gains with unintended long-term consequences of the actions we take today. We have to be open for business. It's an attitude ingrained in our culture. Being open for business guides how we approach opportunities and navigate challenges. We have to ensure that business-related decisions are beneficial and not detrimental to the long-term health of the city. This approach to growth has brought many amenities to our community and made Roseville the community of choice in Northern California. We all should rise together on the same high tide. There's a balance. It takes collaboration and engagement. We have to make sure that what's best for the city and community is part of every decision we make. We also have to protect our essential services and quality of life. I've been out in this community in hundreds of meetings. I hear over and over how proud people are of the decision they made to move here and to start a business here. They're fiercely protective of the things that drew them here, and they don't want to see the community erode. It's not only a financial investment people make in Roseville. It goes well beyond that. It's an investment in living in a community where we feel safe, where we know when we call our police, we call our fire department, they come, and they come quickly. It's an investment in a community where our kids can receive a top-notch public education, an education that prepares them to succeed in a changing workforce and society. It's an investment in retirement and being a place where we can remain active, connected with so many recreational amenities and volunteer opportunities. It's an investment in a community where you can find jobs and where you can grow a business. It's an investment in a community where people have access to the same quality civic and educational resources regardless of where they live. We protect our community's investment by hiring great people, people who have a passion for public service and a desire to make Roseville better. It's a calling that is evidenced in the high marks we receive in community satisfaction surveys. 90% of our residents give our city high marks for service, and it's a credit to the dedicated, hardworking staff that we have. They truly care about our businesses and our residents, particularly because so many of them are residents themselves. We're in a situation the past few years where 30 to 40% of our workforce is age eligible to retire. That's a huge amount of turnover to manage, and it's a lot of institutional knowledge that will be walking out the door. We have to find ways to capture it and transfer it, and that'll be an ongoing quest. Our performance audits have demonstrated that we're able to operate with exceptional efficiency. This is due in large part because we've had a workforce with a long tenure and a depth of knowledge that goes with it. It's how our community enjoys a high-level service despite a 30% per capita reduction in staff since 2007. As our workforce turns over, our population continues to grow. We will need to hire more people to maintain the same service levels we have in place now. These are some of the big picture long-term challenges, choices, and approaches that are in front of us. Now I'd like to share some updates from our departments. Roseville is the only full-service city in the capital region. This means the city itself provides a full range of municipal services: electricity, water, power, parks, police, and fire. In other cities, many of these services are provided through a maze of entities such as the private sector, special districts, or contracts, but not here. Here we're singing to the same sheet of music. It's an advantage we have in managing a general fund budget of $140 million and a full operational budget of close to $500 million. Public safety remains top priority of the council, and this is reflected in this year's budget, which has allocated 69% of our sales and property tax revenue directly to police, fire, and medical services. With the current budgetary constraints, our goal is to maximize the value to the community. Our example is our police department's social services unit. It has been successful in connecting those needing services with government and nonprofit organizations that provide them. It's a prevention-focused approach, ultimately less expensive than enforcement. The increase in homelessness has become a bigger and more visible issue in Roseville, and this is due largely to recent court decisions at the federal and state levels. Impacts from a growing homeless population have increased our calls for service to our dispatch center and have also increased our cleanup costs. The development of our police department social services unit is helping to address the cause of problems and not just the symptoms. But more is needed. We'll coordinate with local nonprofits to address the issue. We've partnered with Sutter, and we engage in the regional discussions with the county as we will continue to address this issue. On the prevention side, our housing authority makes the most of the funds we receive from the federal government. The housing authority provides safe and clean housing for 663 families through a rental assistance program from the Housing Choice Voucher program. It's the city's single strongest tool to prevent homelessness in our city. The program brings about $5 million a year into the Roseville economy. Our fire department is continuing to examine the trends to ensure that we are meeting the changing needs within our community. Our fire department has experienced a significant growth in calls for medical service. At the same time, the calls for fires have remained flat. We're fortunate to have that trend in our community, and a lot can be attributed to construction, building standards and codes, and city infrastructure. We're asking outside experts to help analyze the data and identify trends to make sure we're optimizing our response model. As we continue to align expenses with revenues, we must ensure limited resources are put to the highest and best use. We also look at opportunities to work with our neighboring jurisdictions to meet community needs more broadly on local and regional levels. When we talk about quality of life, the conversation usually turns to our robust and well-maintained park system. For over 30 years, Roseville has been known statewide for the quality and size of its park system. It remains a source of great pride, which is why our ability to maintain parks and facilities is so important. While we're in this period of fiscal uncertainty, we've put the development of new parks and the expansion of existing parks on hold. We're doing this to ensure that we can maintain our existing parks today. This philosophy does not apply to neighborhood parks that have a dedicated funding source. Those will be completed as planned on schedule. In the meantime, we're working to maintain the services we have today, recognizing that while we may have the money to build the next phase of a park, until we have a revenue stream to maintain it, there's no point in spending the dollars to construct it. The same funding challenges hold true for all of our infrastructure, including our roadways. Providing an effective transportation network, both regionally and locally, is not only a quality of life issue, it's an economic driver. We're underfunding our roadway maintenance by $5 million a year. If the gas tax is repealed, Roseville will lose $3 million a year for the next 10 years towards our road maintenance. This would add to the city's general fund deficit. Infrastructure is also more than parks and roads. It includes information technology for public safety, cybersecurity. It runs our entire financial system. These costs continue to grow and will put additional pressures on the general fund as we move forward. Now I'd like to switch gears and talk about our utilities. I'm pleased to report to you that Roseville utilities are recognized nationally and statewide for leadership in policy, new technologies, and innovation. While we can't predict the next drought, the record-setting pace of the state's fire season indicates that things aren't getting any easier. This issue of water supply reliability remains front and center. New development plays an important role in our water strategy by helping to fund infrastructure that allows us to obtain, share, and store water. Our City Council took a significant step last year with its support of the Sites Reservoir to be developed near Chico. This will further diversify our water portfolio by expanding storage opportunities in our wet years. We're also working hard at the state level to ensure that regulations regarding conservation and water efficiency make sense, since a one-size-fits-all won't solve the state's problem. Changes in the energy industry continue to evolve quickly. Roseville Electric Utility is offering new opportunities and solutions to its customers, and we're remaining vigilant in a changing legislative and regulatory environment. We're weighing how new laws regarding renewable energy will affect our customers and will affect the utility in general. Roseville has one of the highest solar densities in the nation. We continue to innovate, and this helps our customers conserve, be efficient, and have access to new energy technologies. We're launching our first community solar project, allowing more solar access to residents who are interested in going green. We've only scratched the surface, but as you can tell, there's a lot happening in our city. We recognize that you have a busy life and don't always have the time to participate in our public process. That's why we make extensive use of our social media tools and our online digital engagement efforts. We want to help you understand the complexity of policy decisions that are made, and we want you to make sure you can participate when and how it's convenient for you. Informed input makes for meaningful dialogue about critical topics. One thing is for certain, we have a community that cares. I was shocked when a little over 7 years ago I went to my first meeting, public meeting, and there was over 100 people. It's a testament to the fact that we have volunteers, residents, elected officials, and staff who truly care. It is at this intersection where City Council and staff meet residents and businesses that good government happens. It's a pleasure to serve this city where the kind of leadership we have on our City Council, the kind of staff who enacts policy so skillfully, and the kind of strong community support we have for Roseville, where this vision of Roseville can exist. This is a great community. I'm proud to serve it, and together we will all make Roseville a better place. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us today. This is the end of our evening.